David rushed into his mother's room, clutching a kitchen knife in his small hands. "Mommy, mommy, mommy," he called, his voice trembling. His mother, alarmed by the sudden appearance, turned to him, her eyes wide with concern. "David, what is chasing you? And why are you holding that knife?" she asked, rushing towards him. "Mommy, please come and see what I did to Abby in the dining room," David said, his tone innocent but urgent. "What did you do to Abby? And why is there blood all over your body and uniform?" his mother asked, her heart racing with fear. "I used your knife to do what that lady did to that man in the movie we watched last night," David explained calmly. "Abby fell on the ground just like the man in the movie, and I called her so many times, but she didn't answer. I tried to wake her up so we could finish our breakfast, but she didn't move. Please, mommy, come and wake her up so that we can go to school," David cried. David's mother felt a sudden jolt of panic. "You did what? Jesus, my only daughter," she screamed, dashing out of the room. When she reached the kitchen, she froze, horrified by the sights before her. Once upon a time, there lived a couple named Stanley and Regina. Married for 7 years without a child, they were eventually blessed with 2 wonderful children, David and Abby. Stanley and his family lived a happy and healthy life until he had to travel abroad on a multi-million-dollar contract, leaving his wife and children behind in Nigeria. One day, Regina and her children were watching an action movie in their bedroom when their nanny, Auntie Amaka, entered the room. "David and Abby, it's time to sleep. Your rooms are ready," she said gently. "Auntie, we're not ready to sleep yet. We want to finish watching this movie first," David protested. "It's already late and you need to sleep so you can wake up on time for school tomorrow," Auntie Amaka insisted. "What exactly is wrong with you, woman? Can't you see that the children are having a good time?" Regina snapped, irritated by the interruption. "I'm sorry, ma, but I'm only doing this so they don't fall asleep in class tomorrow," Auntie Amaka explained. "I didn't hire you to train my children. I hired you to look after them. Get out of my room right now," Regina commanded her. Auntie Amaka hesitated, concerned about the children, because she knew that the movie was not appropriate for the children. So she begged her madam to let the children go to bed and stop watching the movie because it was spoiling their minds. Regina glared at her. "What do you mean, old woman? Get out of my room. I didn't pay you to come and teach me how to train my kids. Get out from here," she said. Auntie Amaka sighed, her voice trembling. "Ma, I'm speaking from experience as a mother of 5 grown children. Though 4 are late, I know what children of this generation are capable of. My grandson nearly suffocated his sister with a pillow after watching an action movie," Amaka explained. "You cannot compare your poor wretched children to mine," Regina shouted harshly. "My children are well trained and intelligent, unlike those your so-called children. Now leave my presence," she shouted at Auntie Amaka. Regina pushed Auntie Amaka out of the room, leaving the old nanny in tears. She went back to her room, thinking about her late husband and the children she had lost. Meanwhile, back in Regina's room, David turned to his mother as the movie continued. "Mommy, did that man who died in the movie really die?" David asked. Regina smiled. "No, David, he didn't die. He's just acting. He will wake up after the fight." But in the real world, their actions had set a tragedy in motion that no one could reverse. Auntie Amaka had a nightmare about David and Abby. In the dream, she was in the bathroom when she heard Abby screaming. She rushed out, wrapped in a towel, only to find Abby lying on the floor, bleeding from the head, and David standing over her. "Jesus Christ! David, what happened to Abby?" she asked, horrified. David explained. "We were acting out what we saw in the movie, and when Abby kicked me, I pushed her and she hit her head on the wall." Before Auntie Amaka could take Abby to the hospital, Regina drove in and panicked at the sight of her daughter. Despite their efforts, Abby died on the way to the hospital. Regina blamed Auntie Amaka for Abby's death, leading to the nanny's arrest and death sentence. As she was about to be hanged, Auntie Amaka woke up from her sleep, sweating and scared. Rushing to Regina's room, she found the children still watching the movie. Auntie Amaka pleaded with Regina to speak with her privately, but Regina, irritated, refused and insulted her instead. Frustrated, Auntie Amaka returned to her room, but a sense of fear lingered. She tried warning Regina again, but she was dismissed rudely. The next morning, unable to bear the tension, Auntie Amaka decided to quit her job. She packed her belongings and told Regina she was leaving due to her poor treatment. Regina dismissed her concerns and demanded she complete her chores before leaving. While preparing for breakfast, Regina received a call from Stanley, the children's father, who promised to return soon. David asked for a toy gun and Abby requested for a teddy bear. As soon as the call ended, David suggested they act in a scene from the movie they watched the previous night. They went to the dining room, set up Regina's phone to film, and each grabbed a knife. The play acting turned dangerous when Abby accidentally injured David. In retaliation, David stabbed Abby, causing her to fall, bleeding heavily. David knelt beside his sister Abby, gently shaking her as tears filled his eyes. "Abby, please, I'm sorry. Get up, let's go and finish our breakfast so mommy can take us to school," David pleaded, but Abby did not respond. "Abby, please talk to me now. I said I'm sorry. Stand up, I won't play like that again. Please, let's go and eat so we can go to school." David's voice quivered as he tried to lift Abby, but she laid still, her body limp and cold. Panicking, David ran upstairs to his mother's room, clutching a knife in his hand. Just as David left the kitchen, Auntie Amaka walked in and saw Abby lying on the ground, motionless. She gasped, stepping back in horror. "Jesus Christ! This is exactly what I saw in my dream. Please let me leave this house immediately before this woman accuses me of killing her daughter," Auntie Amaka said to herself as she rushed to her room to pack her belongings. Meanwhile, David burst into his mother's room screaming, "Mommy, mommy, mommy, come and see, oh, Abby does not want to wake up." Regina, startled, turned to her son. "David, what's chasing you and why are you holding that knife?" she asked, alarmed. "Mommy, please come and see what I did to Abby in the kitchen," David said, his voice breaking. "David, what did you do to Abby and why is there blood all over your school uniform?" Regina asked, her fear rising. "Mommy, I used your knife to do what they did to that man in the movie we watched last night. Abby fell down just like the man and I called her several times but she didn't wake up. I tried to get her up so we could finish our breakfast but she didn't move or respond. Mommy, please come and wake her up from her sleep so we can go to school," David explained, his voice innocent yes trembling. Regina's heart sank as the words hit her. "David, you did what? Jesus, my only daughter Abby," Regina screamed, racing downstairs. She reached the dining room and froze in shock, seeing Abby's lifeless body on the floor, her uniform soaked in blood. Regina turned and grabbed Auntie Amaka, who was trying to sneak out with her belongings. "What did you do to my daughter?" Regina screamed, shaking her violently. "I swear, ma, I didn't touch her. I found her like this. Please, I don't want any trouble," Auntie Amaka cried, terrified. "You killed my daughter and now you want to run away. I will make sure you suffer for this," Regina shouted as she picked up Abby, running out the door. At the hospital, Regina handed Abby over to the doctors, but moments later, she was given the heartbreaking news. "Ma'am, we did our best, but we lost her." Regina's world shattered and she collapsed, screaming in agony. When Regina regained consciousness, she cried uncontrollably. "Where is my daughter? Where is Abby? She is all I have," she cried. "Please calm down, ma. This isn't the end of your life," the doctor said, trying to console her. "You don't understand. I suffered so many humiliations before I had that girl," Regina cried. Later, Regina called her husband, Stanley, crying. "Abby is dead. Abby is dead. What are we going to do now, Stanley? Our only daughter is dead." Stanley, who was abroad, couldn't believe his ears. Regina, what are you saying? I just spoke to her a few hours ago. This is not funny. Regina switched the phone to a video call and showed Stanley their daughter's lifeless body. Jesus Christ, Regina, who killed my daughter? Who took my little princess away? I will make sure whoever did this pays, Stanley shouted, his voice breaking. Regina returned home after taking Abby's body to the mortuary. As she entered the house, David approached her timidly. Mommy, it was me. I was the one who used the knife on Abby. Auntie Amaka wasn't even there when it happened. I just thought she would get up like the man in the movie, David said. Regina's anger exploded and she beat David fiercely, her grief and frustration pouring out. After the beating, she sat alone thinking of what to tell people about Abby's death. I can't tell anyone David did this. They will take him away or kill him. I'll blame Auntie Amaka instead. Let her suffer for this. I should have listened when she warned me not to let them watch that movie last night, Regina lamented. David, if your father or anyone asks you about Abby, tell them that you brought me the phone and then we heard Abby screaming. When we got upstairs, we saw Auntie Amaka trying to run away with her things. That's the story, and don't you say anything else or I'll kill you myself, Regina warned. The next day, both families gathered at Regina's house, demanding to know what happened. Regina repeated the lie she has rehearsed, accusing Auntie Amaka of killing Abby. Auntie Amaka could only cry as she was blamed for a crime she didn't commit. Stanley, heartbroken and furious, locked Auntie Amaka in a room, waiting for the right moment to deal with her. Stanley's friend Raymond visited and asked Stanley, "Are you sure Auntie Amaka did this? That woman doesn't seem capable of such a thing." Stanley sighed deeply. "I don't know what to believe anymore, Raymond. All I know is that my daughter is dead."